What's up, you guys? You know from some of my previous videos that whenever I'm helping people evaluate a business for sale, I like to think very systematically and very precisely, especially with the words that I use to be able to construct questions to ask sellers to get the most amount of value from those answers. And one of the biggest problems and illustrations that I can give you here of using bad, vague language is the eMyth. Now, in the eMyth book, the author basically says that after 1 year of business ownership, there's a 40% chance of failure, and after you go up to 5 years, it jumps up to 80%. Now, first off, it makes it sound like everyone that's starting a business is pretty much doomed to fail, which that's a whole other video for another time. But the question you should be thinking is, wait a second, why have they failed? How does this guy know that they failed? Well, he is collecting data on how many businesses have shut down. And the second question you should ask is, what caused that failure? Well, most people intuitively think that they're failing because they're not making any money. So the business is shut down. Why would you shut it down? Because it's not making any money. That makes sense. All these things are wrong. And what happens is if you believe this, it starts to screw up your whole evaluation process if you're looking at buying someone else's business. And so if you look at businesses that have just shut down, it ignores everything that happened up until that moment. And a lot of businesses do not fail because they're not profitable. So for example, if you bump into a FedEx seller and he's only owned it for 3 years, you may say, well, gosh, maybe it's not profitable. That's why he's only owned it for 3 years and that's why he wants out. Well, he might be very profitable, but realize, hey, this isn't absentee owned like the broker promised me. I have to spend 50 hours a week dealing with all this crazy stuff, and employees are really hard to manage. So I don't want to deal with it, right? So when we can see why they're really selling, it makes it easier to be able to evaluate, make sure that we're picking the right business. But also going back to this idea of the eMyth, when we see a failure in that book, it's just looking at the business that's closed down. Well, why did it close down? Well, it might have been profitable, might have been wonderful in every single way. The guy just needed to move, or maybe he needed to sell to pay off some medical bills, or whatever the case may be. So the point is that whenever we're seeing these failure stats, they're not accurate. They're not accurate at all because we're not defining the idea of failure, because a lot of times people intuit that failure means not profitable. That's not the case. There are a ton of businesses that are very profitable. And whenever that guy goes to sell his business, that will be considered a failure to the eMyth. And those guys can be able to say, wow, look at us. Our stats are really right. Wow, we've really done a great job. Well, have they? Or have they deceived a lot of people into thinking that starting your own business is far riskier than what it actually is? Because it might not be. Now, granted, I do think that buying businesses, specific types of businesses, is a very good idea to shortcut a lot of the pain of starting up a business. But the point is that whenever you can see that starting it might not be as risky as what you think, and then secondarily, thinking in this systematic and clear, precise manner will not only help you decide whether you should start your own business, but also evaluate other businesses for sale. This starts to become helpful because if you think about a lot of businesses that are fads, for example, people that were selling fidget spinners like crazy, that might have been an incredibly profitable business for a lot of businesses. Well, they're all shut down now. Did they fail? No, they made $300,000 a year for 3 years while they rode out that fad. There might have been a lot of companies that sold hand sanitizer, made a ton of money. Did they fail when they shut it down because people aren't slathering in hand sanitizer anymore? Like, no, let's not call that a failure. Let's call that a hell of a win, right? So the point is that just because something has shut down doesn't mean it wasn't profitable and doesn't mean it was a failure either. So start thinking in more systematic ways. Be very cautious against words where you start to presume that you know the reasons why certain things are happening, and you will start to evaluate businesses better. You'll start to think clearer, and you will start to realize that starting your own business might not be as risky as what you thought either. So anyway, hopefully this helps out. Share this with someone, like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.